What's up, guys? This is Holland with the Wolverine.com, and we're back with another Michigan recruiting report. I was in Dallas over the weekend for the Under Armour camp. Saw lots of Michigan recruits. We'll talk about them here in a bit. But before we do, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free, get notifications every time we drop new videos. And also subscribe to the Wolverine.com. Can't get enough here on our YouTube channel. Head over to the Wolverine.com today. Use the promo code UM1. That's $1 for 2 months over at the Wolverine.com. Get exclusive insider recruiting information, team information, basketball, NIL, transfer portal, and so much more. Plus, you get to be part of a message board community with thousands and thousands of users. It's extremely active. Come join the discussion. Come get recruiting intel and so much more over at the Wolverine.com. Use that promo code UM1. All right, guys. So I'm going to be breaking down 5 key recruits I saw at the Under Armour Dallas camp over the weekend. Let's go ahead and start off with Michigan wide receiver commit Jaylen Pile, 3-star prospect out of Dallas Parish Episcopal. So Jaylen Pile is a really high floor wide receiver, kind of fits the same mold of wide receiver that Michigan has landed over the last couple cycles. So when you think of Jaylen Pile, you think of Channing Goodwin, you think of Samaj Morgan, you think of Amarion Stewart. These are guys that aren't necessarily burners. They don't have the elite track times, but they always seem to find the soft spot in the defense. They are great natural pass catchers. They are a quarterback's friend, especially short to intermediate. Jaylen Pile, I think, projects best as a slot receiver. He's 6 foot, about 180 pounds, a little thicker than when I saw him in the fall. Just a really tactical route runner, really savvy player, really understands the game, understands what DBs are trying to do. So again, really high football IQ. No surprise, he is the son of Willie Pile, who played defensive back in the NFL. He also trains with one of the best wide receiver trainers in the country in Margin Hooks, who played with Ron Bellamy in the NFL. So there's a connection there. So again, no surprise that Pile is a really tactical route runner, really high IQ kid. And again, great natural pass catcher. Throughout the camp, he did a great job of just catching the ball away from his body, showed strong hands, showed the ability to tightrope the sideline, get the feet in, make the tough catches, make the catch with the DB draped all over him. So with Jaylen Pile, I think he's a sure-handed, steady weapon. I'd like to see Michigan continue to add more speed to the wide receiver room. I think you have guys like Pile and Stewart and Morgan and Goodwin, and that's great. But our next prospect, I think, could add maybe a little bit of a different element to the wide receiver room, and that is Mason James. Mason James out of Oklahoma, Norman North High School. When you think of Norman, you think of OU, and think Oklahoma kid, he's probably going to end up with the Sooners. But I think Michigan has a really good shot here. Couple connections. So I mentioned Margin Hooks, one of the best wide receiver trainers in the country, played with Ron Bellamy in the NFL. Not only does he train Jaylen Pile, he also trains Mason James. So that's definitely a help there. Mason James and Jaylen Pile are very good friends. They've actually talked about playing together at the next level. Jaylen has actively been recruiting Mason James. So I think that, again, those connections will help Michigan here. He's been on campus in the past. He told me he's looking to finalize plans to make an official visit to Michigan, likely on June 20th, which is Victor's weekend. It also means that Michigan would get his last official visit, and he would come in on the same weekend as Pile. So with Mason James, a lot of the same traits as Jaylen Pile, very sure-handed, does a great job of catching the ball away from his body, tactical route runner, but the guy can really create separation with his speed. There were a couple times where I filmed clips or just watched him, and the corner in one-on-ones would get left out of frame. There was one comeback in particular where I remember just James planted his foot, came back, and the corner was just gone, like out, like thinking he was running a go route. So I really like James, and the track times are there. He ran in the 10.8s as a sophomore. I mean, if he can get down into the low 10.7s, into the 10.6s, there's a lot to like about Mason James. I've been a big, advocate of Michigan needs more speed in the wide receiver room. That's what they would get in Mason James, and the Wolverines are definitely in the top group here. All right, let's go ahead and move over to the offensive line and talk about the best recruit I saw at Under Armour Dallas. And that was Felix Ojo, top 100 offensive tackle out of Mansfield, Lake Ridge. You're talking about a true tackle here, 6'7", 275 pounds. There are so many swing guys on Michigan's board, so many guys that are tackles that likely will end up in the interior. Felix Ojo is a true tackle. He has the length, he has the athletic profile, he's a dancing bear, great feet, can easily add 30, 35 more pounds to his frame. I think Ojo really improved his stock. I talked to On3 rankings assistant Cody Belair, who was at the camp with me, and just based off of his comments, I think that Ojo will make a massive jump in the upcoming rankings update for 2026. Right now, On3 has him just outside of the top 200. I think he's going to jump probably into that top 100, and that's what he is in the industry ranking right now. In terms of where Michigan stands, the Wolverines made his top 8. I think they have some work to do. Texas is the heavy favorite here, but Ojo did tell me that he wants to get to Michigan for an unofficial visit in March and maybe for an official visit in June, or potentially both. So, he's been to campus before. He was at the barbecue at the Big House last summer. I think the interest is legitimate. They just have to get him back on campus. And Sharon Moore is personally involved in this recruitment, stopped by and saw him at his high school last month. And another connection here is Michigan analyst James Brown was a longtime high school coach in Mansfield. So that should help with Ojo's camp. And remember, James Brown's son, JB Brown, is Michigan's special teams coordinator. So he'll be actively involved in this recruitment too. Let's stick on the offensive line and talk about Zaden Krempin out of Prosper, Texas. So I talked about Michigan having all these swing guys on the offensive line board. That's exactly what Zaden Krempin is. He's a swing guy. He's been talked about as a tackle, 6'5", 255 pounds, got a lot of reps at tackle at the camp, but listed as an interior offensive lineman. And I think probably projects better as a guard after watching him live for the first time. Now, our On3 rankings assistant, Cody Belair, I mentioned he was at the camp too, handles a lot of our rankings. He actually thinks Krempin will end up being a center. So I'm not sure if I'm all the way there yet, moving all the way from tackle into center. I could see it. But right now, I probably lean a little bit more towards guard for Krempin, which is fine. I mean, he's a guy that has a really high floor, really high level technique, great balance. I thought he had some really good one-on-one reps. I think he can get stronger, continue to add weight to his frame, especially, being 255, if you project better as an, interior offensive lineman. I think that you obviously have to get stronger, add some more mass to your frame. I think that'll be a big focus for Krempin. So for Krempin, the technique's all there. I think for him, it's more just the physical aspect. In terms of where Michigan stands, right now, the schools closer to home like Texas, SMU, and LSU are all very high on his mind. But if an out of region school can land Zaden Krempin, I think it's Michigan. I think the Wolverines have done a fantastic job of recruiting him. They've gotten him on campus on multiple occasions. He's looking to come back in March. He's already set his OV for June 20th. So Krempin is a very realistic pool out of the Lone Star State. All right, and let's end the video by flipping over to the defensive side of the ball and talking about Jordan Deck, defensive back out of Frisco Lone Star. Jordan Deck's probably a name that you haven't heard a lot, but he has quietly become a priority target for Michigan on the back end. Michigan's secondary coach, Lamar Morgan, stopped by and saw him in January, and Morgan really likes size in the secondary. And when you look at Jordan Deck, he's a very intriguing prospect at 6'3", 180 pounds. He can move around in the secondary. He can be a really big corner. I think he can be a great safety, which is where he's listed. He could be, depending on how much weight he can put on, he can be kind of that bigger safety like a Makari Page. A lot to do with a frame like Jordan Deck. I think he's very exciting. I think On3's ahead of the curve here. They have him ranked as a top 300 prospect. No other service does. I think that'll change soon. I thought Deck had a really good performance at the Under Armour camp. I thought he was at his best when he was covering bigger tight ends. He's very physical. He uses his length to his advantage. I think he has some pretty good speed for his size. So Jordan Deck is definitely a name that Michigan fans should get more familiar with. He told me he's planning multiple visits to Michigan. He wants to get on campus for a spring practice. He wants to get on campus for an official visit in June. So Jordan Deck, you're seeing his stock rise both from a player perspective and on Michigan's recruiting board. So that's the latest scoop coming out of the Under Armour Dallas camp. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free, get notifications every time we drop new videos, and also subscribe to the Wolverine.com today. Use that promo code UM1. That's $1 for 2 months over at the Wolverine.com. Get even more Michigan recruiting intel over there. We will be back out on the road this weekend, so make sure to tune in for that, and we'll see you guys next week.